Frank Schwab talked about the potential of the Browns' Deshaun Watson at quarterback. This is from Yahoo's Fantasy Football Show.
I think that they made the playoffs last year because they were so good around the quarterback position. It's not like Joe Flacco had some magic beans. He's still the same guy who looked completely washed up with the 2022 Jets. He was just in such a great situation. And I think that people love dunking on Deshaun Watson. I get every reason why. Everybody wants to root against Deshaun Watson. But there are reasons he hasn't played well the last couple of years, whether it was injuries or the suspension, which was all his fault. Obviously, I know that story. But if Deshaun Watson is just the 15th best quarterback in the NFL, which I don't think is asking too much of a guy who was once a top 5 or 6 quarterback in the NFL, I think the Browns can win a Super Bowl. I really do. I think that they're that good around the quarterback position that if Deshaun Watson is just okay, this team's going to win the division and they're going to be a Super Bowl contender. I just love their roster. I love the direction they're heading. It's just all about Deshaun Watson. If he stinks, and he could stink, there's no doubt about that. It's been a long time since he's played at an elite level or even an above average level. If he stinks, yeah, they're going to struggle because they're in a tough division. But I just kind of have left the light on for maybe Deshaun Watson is a good quarterback still, and we're just going to see it. Look, go back and look at the second half of the Ravens game last year. That guy's pretty good. Like, he is good at football, maybe not good at other things off the field, but I still think the Browns could be. The Browns are one of my teams. I'm buying this year. I'll switch my mind like I did on the 49ers last year very quickly if Deshaun Watson just looks terrible again, but I'm buying the Browns this year. I'm very, very high on them.
With that, let's welcome in Max Chadwick, Pro Football Focus. Max, every time we get to this Deshaun Watson question, I ask, and I haven't asked this of you, the reason I'm optimistic Deshaun Watson can come back, I have not come up with a quarterback who has been a top 5 quarterback, made 3 Pro Bowls, had a sustained success in the NFL, and then hasn't had a catastrophic injury and then just couldn't play anymore. I mean, that's kind of, he's been banged up. It hasn't been a catastrophic injury. There was the suspension. I can't come up with anybody that had it for a sustained amount of time and lost it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think, like we just heard, like he was like a top 5 or 6 quarterback in the NFL just a few years ago, right? And I obviously a couple years off is definitely going to be a big thing. And I think he's still, knocking off the rust that he's got right now, clearly knocking off the rust because he has been pretty bad since he's been back from that suspension. But yeah, I think it's kind of maybe a mental thing for Deshaun Watson now. Obviously, he went through a lot and by his own doing. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it. Yeah, I think it's just kind of maybe a mental thing with him right now more than anything else. And it remains to be seen whether or not he could ever be the same quarterback that he was with the Houston Texans, with the Cleveland Browns right now. And they're hoping he can be. They paid a lot of money for him. They also traded a lot to get him. So the Browns are desperately hoping he can be. But that is the biggest X factor, maybe in the entire NFL right now, is whether or not Deshaun Watson can return to the Houston Texans form that we saw.